Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls from all over the world, you are now back. We are here. This is Rags to Riches, Brandon After Dark, Terrafin. What is good, Terrafin? What is going on? Hexacat. Yeah, what's going on, Hexacat? How's life? Pulseformer. First, I don't know, man. Terrafin beat you to it. Terrafin has a knack for that type of thing. Cot G, what's up, man? MJ Money, yeah, buddy. About to tell you guys, this stream, I have to do these streams probably about once every 6 months. Because I got to remind the world, I got to remind people how I got my start in this whole YouTube business. So this is going to be one of those streams that I'll probably get a lot of unsubscribers. Thank God. What's up, Big Gunner? What's up? What's up? What's up? Life's too good, too easy. That's awesome, man. That's what I like to hear. Pray for me. I've had an ear infection for 3 weeks. Oh, that sucks, dude. Don't they have you on like amoxicillin or something? 3 weeks. I bet you had a rough time. You've had a temperature too, I'm sure. That's rough. Yeah. Whiskey Tango Foxtrot. RH was taken off YouTube. I guess he's been taken off YouTube before. I have a sneaking suspicion this will resolve itself. Yeah. So, yeah, Gitter. He's gonna have to move to Gitter. I think we're all gonna be there eventually. It's disgusting, man. How they can just pull the plug. Did he have any warning? Was it that stream he did a couple weeks ago talking about some topics that aren't supposed to be talked about? I don't know. I'm gonna start getting into this, guys. This stream I have to do probably once every 6 months to remind people where I'm at. This stream is kind of like the equivalent of a forest fire for my channel. It's going to be able to basically kind of cleanse out some of the folks that don't want to be here. And the things that are going to be talked about, they've got to be said. They've got to be said. So if you're looking for pulse related, hex related content, things of that nature, we can touch on that at the end, but that's not going to be what this is at all. So let's get into it. Let's just start talking about it here. And these are tactics. This stream is going to be about the tactics of the left. It's going to be about how those tactics have permeated into society as a whole, and especially from a global view with the speed of information and how information moves from one side of the earth to the other. These folks have been able to take advantage of that and spread some really freaking cancerous, viral, disgusting ideas that really help to degrade, in my opinion, society at large. So we're going to call a spade a spade. All right. It's time to call a spade a spade. Who's infected with this cancer that I'm talking about? Well, the infected are schools. The infected are media. The infected are politics. The infected are entertainment. The infected is the science community. Remember when these ideas, these far left ideas, remember when they used to be on the outskirts of society? Do you remember when these thoughts and ideas were offbeat? Do you remember when they were fringe? Do you remember when they were experimental, kind of living only in the sewers and the gutters of society? And really, the truth is, by the time I was born, it was already too late. And, you know, This quote unquote pandemic was a really big part of the coming out party for these ideas. And we've seen it. We've seen the tactics. We've seen the playbook. We've seen all that. And everyone you know, including yourself, is completely engulfed in it. They listen to it on a daily basis. You listen to it. They watch it. You watch it. They talk about it. It's all around us. It's getting stronger and stronger. And really, its goal is the complete destruction of traditional society as we know it. And they want to replace it. They want to replace traditional society with autocracy. What is the cancer? Well, the cancer is various forms of Marxism, um, different flavors expressed in different ways, some more subtle than others, but that's what it is. We could pinpoint where these ideas came from. We can look back in history to see what these ideas do ultimately. And it's just various iterations have permeated into all aspects of culture and society. And it's important for us to have streams like this because we need to identify it in order to respond to it effectively. I know I joke, I know I cut up, things like that, but this stream is very important. And I'll probably, like I said, I'll probably do this once a year, maybe twice a year. So, what types of names does it go by? So, if you were to hear one of these names, it's pretty much a red flag in your head. You're saying, oh, okay, that's what he's talking about. So, what names does it go by? Well, you've heard of progressives or progressivism. That's a name that it goes by. You've heard of people calling themselves democratic socialists. That's one of the names it goes by. You hear about social activism and community organizing. Those are names that it goes by. You hear about BLM. You hear about Antifa. You hear about critical race theory. Here's some other phrases that you know what you're dealing with as soon as you hear it. Economic justice. They start talking about that. Environmental justice. Racial equity. It's not about equality anymore. It's about equity. Gender equity. It's not about equality. It's about equity. Okay. And equity can be attained by any means necessary. What's their message? Here's the message of pretty much all those things I just talked about, all those names. The message is existing culture is racist. Existing culture is sexist. Existing culture is homophobic. You'll hear them throw out terms like colonialistic. You'll hear them throw out terms like materialistic. And when you take that down, the path, materialism, it turns into the hatred of wealth, the jealousy, the envy. That's where that goes, for example. Pillagers of the environment. They put the environment under their belt at this point. And that's a really powerful tool because you can really exact a lot of legislation based on the fear of what's going to happen to the world. These fallacies, these words that they use, they're just meant to drive wedges into the common man's ability to think clearly. And you got to think about common people. They really don't feel like they have time for this type of thing. They're just trying to work. They're just trying to make a living. And here come the media. Here come the newspapers. Here comes their news feed on their social media when they wake up every morning, using all these things to try to scare people and try to separate people, try to splinter people. All right. They intend on destroying existing institutions that have built America, that have built Western society as a whole through lots and lots of trial and error, and they have to destroy these cornerstones and they have to destroy these foundations because they can replace with what they want. They want to create calamity. They want to create problems. They want to dispirit millions and millions of people. And they want to do these things for the sake of proving that existing systems inability it's an inability to address these problems. But it's all fake. They make it up. They say, look, your existing system can't deal with this. It needs to go away. And it's trash, even if there is a solution. And I think we make the mistake of trying to create a solution for these made up problems, in my opinion. So they've occupied our colleges, they've occupied our universities since the 60s and 70s. At this point, they've effectively indoctrinated about 2 to 3 generations of children. I see actually one of the ringleaders of this. You're seeing Disney. If you guys really notice what they've been doing, they've been ratcheting it up, ramping it up. They want to change the narrative around everything. Up is not up anymore. Down is not down anymore. They want to twist everything up, and it's targeted at children. They're in newsrooms, they're in print rooms, social media, boardrooms of major companies, Hollywood. Their ideas create policies that promulgate from the White House to Congress. So our legislation now is being forced through the voices and through the hands and written words and ideas of people who have been, their brains have been completely wrecked. They're separated from reality in many instances, and it's disgusting. Their ideas are on TV shows, corporate trainings. I'm sure some of you guys have dealt with that who are listening to this right now. Teacher trainings. Teacher unions are just cesspools for the most part. Disgusting. So what are the tactics? What type of tactics do they use here? Silencing is probably their number one tactic. They do the whole cancel culture thing. If you stand up and you say something worth saying that's rooted in facts and rooted in reality, they don't like that. They don't like that at all. They don't like it, especially from people who are marginalized, who they deem marginalized, which is also, for the most part, made up. They like to attack debate and academic freedom. You see a lot of debates. You see a lot of quote unquote dissenting speech on colleges and university campuses. You see them try to shut down speakers with differing viewpoints because they don't want that. They don't want the truth to come out. They don't want people to be turned. They don't want people to have any type of stage, any type of microphone, anything like that. They want to destroy monuments of the past. They want to destroy, in America, George Washington monuments, Frederick Douglass, which is ironic. Okay. They want to destroy the 54th Massachusetts Black Union Regiment. They want to destroy those statues. They want to destroy history. Okay. They want to ban or modify works by Mark Twain, William Shakespeare, ban or modify or change Dr. Seuss, Disney cartoons. They want to change pronouns. They want to ban pronouns. If they could, they would. Gender is now subjective. Journalism is cleansed of non-believers. Yeah, if you're not preaching the good Marxist word in journalism, you will find your way out very, very quickly. And they will find a way to attack you. they'll find a way to attack you based on, typically it's your skin color. If you're a black person speaking the truth, then they're going to find a way to attack you. If you're a white person speaking the truth, they're going to find a way to attack you. They use different tactics to do the same thing, to silence you, to cancel you out. They dig up your past. They scrutinize everything about who you are, what you did 20, 30, 40 years ago to conform to present day Marxist ideology. And the unfortunate fact of this, the unfortunate fact is that most people they're just too uneducated about history to understand what's happening. I think a lot of people feel that there's something off, but they just go with it because everybody else is doing it. But they can't pinpoint it because they don't know enough to pinpoint what's happening. What has Marxism done for society? What's Marxism done for the globe? Well, the deaths of tens of millions of human beings and the impoverishment and enslavement of billions more. Brandon, what are you talking about? Here's what you're going to hear in the comments. Brandon, that's not real socialism. That wasn't real socialism. Mao wasn't real socialism. Stalin wasn't real socialism. That's not fair for you to say. Okay. 2, the technological advances of capitalism in such a short amount of time, beginning with America's Industrial Revolution, will never be surpassed by any Marxist state. And there's a fundamental reason why that is. And that fundamental reason is this. You unleash freedom and liberty. You give people the ability to make their own choices, their own decisions, and focus on what they like to do. And when things are emotionally backed, when decisions are emotionally backed and you're going to try to accomplish a task, you're going to get that task done a whole lot quicker, just from a very, very basic level. You're unleashing that power of the individual. And actually, that's another thing. They look at people like me who use the word individual, and then they start painting me a certain way. And it's disgusting and it's horrible. And I've got a very small platform to be able to talk about it. Let me ask you this. Marxism, did it create the world's largest middle class like it always says it's supposed to do? No. Capitalism has created the world's largest middle class. And they talk about labor. Marxism talks about labor. Labor alone creates value. If labor alone creates value, then why do third world countries with extremely high populations suffer as much as they do? Look at like places like India, for example. The amount of poverty there is just surreal. They have one of the biggest, quote unquote, populations or lack of middle class than anybody else in the world. And it's rough. It's rough over there. What are some common themes with what we're talking about here? You will see people who practice and preach this ideology. They come up with these grandiose social plans and social experiments. Okay. They just kind of shoot for the stars. They're kind of in la la land. They throw out any details about how human beings operate at all. And they create these just fake, stupid narratives about La La Land, about paradise, about utopia, whatever you want to call it. It's just not very, very high amounts of impracticability. It just doesn't work. And the problem is they create these crazy, crazy ideas that are completely impractical and go against human nature in every single way. And when you don't go along with it, it leads to subjugation. It leads to enforcement. It leads to tyranny, It leads to authoritarianism. It leads to autocracy, and it leads to suffering, leads to human suffering. And you compare that with something like we have in the systems that we have now, which is capitalism. There all of those types of things exist, but the difference is it's the choice of the human being, it's the choice of the citizen to be able to determine whether or not they want to suffer in many ways. You can make decisions to get out of your situation, and it's not forced on you. What's the allure? Why do people gravitate towards these ideas? Um, Utopianism is essentially tyranny disguised as desirable, workable, and it's kind of like a, a ideas of paradise, paradisical governing ideas. Really, with this idea, limitless fantasies can be applied. So the thing about utopianism is it can be whatever you want. And you see this, you see the people who preach this type of thing. Can you imagine a world where X, where Y, where Z? And then a different person said, can you imagine a world where this and this and this? We need to do everything we possibly can to get to that outcome. If that means the extermination of people, then that's what it means. We've seen it go down that far down the spectrum. We've seen it happen multiple times. We know that's the path that it takes because those people think that they know better than you about how to control, how to live your life, etc. All right. So let's take a couple of these organizations. All right. Let's take Black Lives Matter. When you hear the words Black Lives Matter, if just rewind the clock and you hear that there's an organization called Black Lives Matter. Okay. Like on the surface, Black Lives Matter. Sure. Yeah, we can agree with that. Of course. Right. And then you start doing some digging, you start going on the website, and you find out that it has almost nothing to do with Black lives whatsoever. Almost nothing. Here is one of the statements that you will find on the Black Lives Matter website. And I'm sure most of you have never been to that website. Let me just fill you in. We affirm the lives of Black, queer, trans folks, disabled folks, undocumented folks, folks with records, women, and all Black lives on the gender spectrum. Our network centers those who have been marginalized within the Black liberation movements. Okay. So Black Lives Matter, queer, trans folks, disabled folks, undocumented, folks with records, women, and all Black lives. Okay. You scroll down a little bit, you go to the About section. There's 3 tabs. About what Black Lives Matter, 8 years strong. And then the last tab is instead of history, how do they spell it? They spell it herstory because they can't say history because that's patriarchal. So it's HERSTORY. If you don't believe me, go to the website. So what is this really about? What is this all about? Let's read a little bit more about it. As organizers who work with everyday people, BLM members see and understand significant gaps in movement spaces and leadership. Black liberation movements in this country have created room, space, and leadership for mostly Black heterosexual, cisgender men, leaving women, queer, and transgender people and others either out of the movement or in the background to move the work forward with little or no recognition. So if you're a Black male leader, they don't like you either. What about the what about the women? What about the queer and the transgender people? Can't they be leaders too? That's what they're saying here. So what is Black Lives Matter really all about? Have you guys read the stuff that's on their website? As a network, we've always recognized the need to center the leadership of women and queer and trans people to maximize our movement muscle and to be intentional about not replicating harmful practices that excluded so many in past movements for liberation. We made a commitment to placing those at the margins closer to the center. This is disgusting to me. It's disgusting. All the wedges, everything that we talked about before, they're driving that. They're driving that down. It's really not about Black lives, it seems. It seems that they are just really, really frustrated at what they deem the patriarchy. And it doesn't matter if you're a Black man or not. If your victimhood points don't align with being trans, queer, or woman, they're not really interested. As Black Lives Matter developed through 2013 and 2014, we utilized it as a platform and organizing tool. There's another one of those words, organizing. And if you think that I'm just making that up, no. Looking back all the way into the mid 1800s, community organizing was one of the most important parts of the implementation of socialism and Marxism at large. And that's where this stuff comes from. Other groups, organizations, and individuals used it to amplify anti-Black racism across the country in all the ways it showed up. Tamir Rice, Tanisha Anderson, Maya Hall, Walter Scott, Sandra Bland, these names are inherently important. The space that Black Lives Matter held and continues to hold helped propel the conversation around the state-sanctioned violence they experienced. We particularly highlighted the egregious ways in which Black women, specifically Black trans women, are violated. What's it all about? Do they care about Black lives? They don't care about Black lives the way I care about them. It's disgusting, folks. It's frustrating. It's disgusting. It's ways to drive wedges. One wedge isn't big enough. You have micro mini wedges in between just to separate people out into small sections so they're identifiable and they're able to be attacked. They step out of line, that's the name of the game. So who are the types of people that are most susceptible to this type of ideology? Who are these people? Much of these people are folks who get sucked into the oppressed oppressor narrative. People want to belong to groups, right? People want to be surrounded by like economic, racial, and ethnic groups. They find identity, commonality, and purpose and self-worth. Everybody knows that. All right. So Marx and Engels, they exploit these inherent characteristics of human beings. He encourages people to see themselves by their individual characteristics and traits and identify as oppressed as such, right? They're just victims. He says they're victims of a cruel hierarchy. This is why he stresses classism over individualism. With classism, you can apply victim status as a blanket, right? So if you're a part of a group with similar characteristics, whatever that may be, you can apply a group victimhood blanket, and you can accept that as your own identity. It's much more difficult to do that if you have a society based on individual merit and individual effort. And that's because you see that it's garbage at that point, because it doesn't matter who you are, what's your gender, what you look like, sexual preferences. Those aren't the things that matter in society. It matters about the decisions that you make. It matters about the amount of hard work that you put into things to get where you need to be. So that's why they hate individualism so much, because it breaks their mold. So again, what types of people do we have here that are most susceptible to these ideas? You've got disenchanted people, you've got malcontented people, disaffected, dissatisfied for whatever reason. You've got, 4 or 5 categories there. These people are going to be most susceptible. And why is that? The thing about individualism that hurts people's feelings so much is it exposes their own shortcomings, that they are unable to take personal responsibility for. And the easier way out is to blame someone or something else. I like to think about this. When I first joined a sales team, sales is one of those jobs, for example, that all the really good things that you do are amplified, but also all of the bad things that you do, or all the shortcomings, all the lack of skills. Sales kind of brings that all together, and it highlights what you suck at too. And when it highlights that, you got one of two options. You can look that in the eye and you can make the decision to get better, or you can look that in the eye, throw a temper tantrum, throw your hands up in the air, and don't get better. And then you get passed up at that point. So sales for me was kind of like a litmus test for my weaknesses. And I think about the same thing when I'm talking about this, right? Right. Individualism and capitalism expose people's own shortcomings that they are unable to personally take responsibility for. The easier way out is to blame someone else or something else instead of self-auditing. They systematically shame people with individualistic decisions. They dehumanize people who don't subscribe to the victimhood mentality. Okay. So let's take the common, the common groups that they separate us out in. So skin color, that's one of their favorite ones to do. If you're a um, if you're a white woman and you don't subscribe to if you don't subscribe to the patriarchy idea, for example, then they attack you and they destroy you, because you should be a part of the group. You should be a whole. You should be one. Okay. I got a phone call one time at one of my stores, and customer asked me a question. I'm the manager of a store, and he asked me if I'm part of the union, and I said no, I'm not part of the union. He called me a scab. He cussed me out. I'm supposed to do that. I'm supposed to be a part of that, and if I'm not, then I'm a traitor. I'm sabotaging families, literally killing people. That's another example. Black conservatives, for example, they dehumanize people who don't subscribe to their victimhood mentality. They call those people Uncle Toms, etc. They're loathed as the enemy. It's disgusting. Marxism pretty much projects a theoretical framework in which these people can project their insecurities on a system rather than looking at themselves. So it's a way to offload responsibility. It's not my fault. It's the system's fault. Every single motivational story that you've heard from anybody that is successful, have you ever heard anybody have you ever heard anybody offload responsibility to a system? Well, no. What do you always hear? They succeeded at all costs. They pushed through. The struggle was real and they pushed through. No matter where you came from, no matter what your situation was. They take responsibility for it and they do everything they can to win. These people are lured by false hopes and promises of the utopian transformation and the criticisms of existing society. These people are very susceptible to manipulation and the lure of revolutionary transformation. And it's typically young people, right? People in existing society who show success, happiness, contentment are targeted and tormented because they are labeled as oppressors or oppressor groups. For example, if you do well, you start an HVAC company, you're dirt poor, you go to school, you get your HVAC, you start the company, it does real well, you open up a couple branches, then you could sell your company for $5 million. You did all the right things in life. You got a little bit of money. You live on the right side of town now. You got an okay vehicle. These folks look at you like you're the enemy. Why? Why do they do that? All rich people are just disgusting and immoral and blah, blah, blah. I think it's something in the United States, 90% of millionaires are self-made, not generational. The money hasn't been passed down. Money is, for the most part, a very direct indicator of sacrifice in your life. How much have you sacrificed for how long to get where you needed to be? And they completely twist the narrative and they demonize those people. And if you're in the Hex community, you're in the Pulse community, et cetera, that's the narrative that you're going to see, really crypto at large. You're going to see them use the words like fair share and this and that. That's going to happen a lot. That's coming. They're going to use the same plays out of the same playbook here over the next 10, 15, 20 years. You just got to understand it. You got to see what they're talking about, and you can't get sucked into it, and you got to tell the truth. If you don't acquiesce to the demands of the mob, you're constantly targeted for destruction. And this explains the lack of integrity with athletes, the lack of integrity with journalists, politicians, etc. They don't want to be the target of realized or unrealized violence and harassment. Marxism, progressivism, liberalism, they're all certainly a cancer. It's disgusting. And here's the other thing. One of the biggest problems that people have, just generally speaking, is they think that history begins when they were born, right? They think that they know everything. They don't look to the past for answers. And we quickly forget. It takes one generation for us to forget. And that's with anything. These new Western Marxists, they lack the experience of the consequences of Marxism on a grand scale. These new Western Marxists, they think they've got it figured out. We're not going to fall into the traps of the sins of the past of our former fathers here. We're going to, or the former mothers is probably what they'd say. We're going to do it differently. It's because they're too far separated from the harsh realities of what it actually is and what it actually does. There's people in this chat, I know, because I've gone back to previous chats when I've talked about this. And a lot of you guys have family ties to socialism and communism, Eastern European, Southwest Asia or Southeast Asian ties, families, grandparents, whatever. Some of you guys fled those areas of the world to come here to get away from all that garbage because you see what's happening here, and you know what the end game looks like, and it's frightening to you, and it's frightening to your families. So these new people think they have it all under control. They think they have it all under control, and they get indoctrinated in colleges and universities, and then they go out into society, and they assume the roles of doctors, they assume the roles of lawyers, legislators, politicians, community figures, and they start implementing this garbage in society. And the scary thing is, when you do look at history, I mean, how long did it take from the first Marxist ideas to come out to the slaughter of tens of millions of people? Probably Marx and Engels, mid to late 1800s, 75 years. Tens of millions of people have died. Some would argue that Stalinism, for example, isn't real socialism. Well, where the hell do you think he got the ideas from? He took it and ran with it. They lack historical perspective and they don't care to look. They don't want to look. They have no interest in except they want to preserve their own power. They want to use government to streamline the process. They want to feed the monster. And here's the last thing I want to say about this, and then we'll get back to chat. Most of us in the Western world have fallen victim to thinking that some type of revolution couldn't happen in America or happen in the country that you're at. This is the incorrect way to think. They are actively moving forward and capturing minds. The soft mush of our children's brains are being infected. We are unserious and uneducated about the dark clouds of tyranny over the horizon. Many countries are experiencing this. This pandemic has given a reason to grab power from the people. You hear horror stories from many different Western countries. I've highlighted this multiple times on my channel. I've talked to people from Australia. I've talked to people from France. I've talked to people from different parts of the world. And they say, it's bad here, man. And then I also see other people who come in and shame those people for saying that. It's just a jab. You have to push back when you hear fallacies. You have to push back when you hear untruths. We must speak truth into existence. And that's what I will continue to do with this. I probably just effectively created an incredible dumpster fire. Probably had quite a few people unsubscribe from me, but I don't care. It's never been about the subscribers for me. It's been about the truth. And I really do think that this is the people's channel. And we're going to do things like that. We're going to tell the damn truth unapologetically. So let's go way back here. All right, let's check out some comments. Funny part about them destroying statues of the past. It takes them days to destroy a statue made by a horse and buggy of society with modern day mechanical cranes. Whiskey Tango Foxtrot. People are holding onto a failed ideology that they supported years ago and now know it's wrong, but they're too afraid or too proud to admit that they were wrong. Let's check and see what else we got here. And after I get through these comments, we can talk about Pulse stuff because I see there's a lot of Pulse comments in here. Steak Hex, thank me later. When you give the government enough power to give you everything, don't be surprised when they become strong enough to take it all away. One of the interesting things when you talk to people who are alive during these horrible times in history, all the same, the playbooks are the exact same. And you're going to see this. You see these quote unquote social justice warriors. These are the people that are basically in the government's ear, just diming people out secretly, right? And they feel like they're doing this. They feel like they're doing the right thing, the virtuous thing. And in their minds, they completely feel justified. You know, anything that gets into the way of what the ideas are at large, anything that gets in the way should be pushed out of the way or exterminated. But here's the problem, which you don't understand. When the government finally does seize enough control and enough power in these situations in the past, who do you think are the first people to go? Who do you think the first people are to basically be shunned, excommunicated, or for lack of a better word, really killed? It's those social justice warrior folks. The government turns on them first. Well, why do they do that? It's because when the government seizes power, and when it's done it in the past with different other countries, these people come to the government with their hands out. They say, look what I did for you. I put in all this work this whole time. Government, I gave you what you wanted. You're in power now. What do I get in return? You don't get anything in return. And in fact, sometimes they point a gun at your head and they pull the trigger. Well, why do they do that? It's because they know that those people who put all that time and energy into the movement and into the cause, they're going to be the most dangerous people because they're going to be so hurt that they're not getting anything in return that they can be really big cornerstones into like ousting that government back out of power. So they take care of those people first because those people will be the most emotionally damaged people in society. And that's the horrible thing. That's the thing they don't teach you. Communism works when the conscious level of people is high, because then it's in their nature to share and wanting for fellow man to be well and do good. I fundamentally disagree with that. You cannot tell me right now that in Western society that it is not in our nature to share and do things well. And you compare that to something like Cuba. You compare that to any type of communist society these days or socialist society. There's different spectrums, different ends. You cannot tell me that in a capitalist society, we don't want people to do well. That's BS. That's complete garbage and trash. And not only is it, in my opinion, we have a much greater ability to be able to do good for people because of the resources, because of the way our system is set up, as compared to other countries and other societies. That's the trap that we're talking about. That statement is the trap. I don't hold it against you, Phils. I don't hold it against you. But that's exactly what I just talked about for the last 45 minutes. This is how they get you. They also said they wanted to destroy the nuclear family, but they finally scrubbed it from their website. Which website? Black Lives Matter website? Yeah. Bobby Hexelrod. Black Lives Matter is hard for most to track for most because it's two different factions. There's the movement rallied around taking a knee, and then the organization burns down cities for political gain. You got to be honest. It's funny because Black Lives Matter, it's like it takes on so many different faces, right? And depending on who you talk to, it's going to project something different. I can see that and I can agree with that. And it's probably more than just two sides of that movement, I would say. Terrafin, Brandon's trying to get his YouTube channel deleted tonight. Well, I don't believe in socialism, but if I saw them getting censored on YouTube, I would have something to say because it violates freedom of speech. Most people just hear the term and think it's good for the name it says. But if you dig a little deeper with this or anything else, usually there's a huge amount of hidden beneath the surface view. Absolutely. Absolutely. Big Gunner really can't stand the whole word woke. I don't think many people can. I think what you're seeing really right now, as bad as as horrible as it was over the past, really, in my opinion, it started going really, 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 really downhill in Obama's second term. That's when you could really see the policies and the ideas and the things of the past coming out through legislation, coming out through things that were coming out of his mouth about the police and et cetera, et cetera. I think that's when it really started going downhill for me in my lifetime. And I'm sure that people who've been on this earth longer than I have seen their perception is much, much worse because it has just completely degraded into societal dumpster fire. It's probably my favorite word ever, by the way, dumpster fire. I just like saying it. Yeah. Brandon, you're saying this as a white male. You don't know hardships. Exactly. Yeah. I don't know hardships. I was born white and privileged and just tons of money. Like I literally have money growing on trees in the back. It's disgusting. And I should be ashamed of myself, but I'm not. Yeah, this could be. There's going to be a lot of people report me. This could be the get you banned type truth. We'll see though. Yeah, love these. And that Phil's, I love that. He says, love these philosophical debates. Which other crypto communities have that? They don't, because it's all freaking rainbows and butterflies and millionaires. And they don't talk about things that matter. They don't actually go try to change the world and change lives. They just don't. So that's just how it is. And I appreciate you talking earlier. I will vehemently disagree with people on stream. I will do that. Phil's, I didn't agree with your last comment, but I want to have these conversations. I want you to make it known. My hat is off to you, Brandon. You're taking on a lot addressing these topics. Much respect. Absolutely, Bobby. It's bigger than us. It's bigger than one person. It's we got to move now. I think that we're seeing people wake up. The thing I was going to say earlier was, with all the bad things that have happened over the past couple years, um, allowing these things to come to light and allowing people to see what it actually is and what it actually looks like, that's probably one of the most important things that could have happened, as much as it sucked for a lot of people, because now people understand that it's really there, that it's not just a bunch of freaking conspiracy theorists talking about what could happen, what society could like, crackpot theories. No, when you concentrate power in human beings, absolute power corrupts absolutely. And that's what you see. Yeah. The land of abstraction is dangerous. Most people don't understand reality, which is why they think they will be on top. I like this idea, actually. I think we just need to have one massive battle of dodgeball, work it out from there and move on. Rags looks like a framer. Dude, pain on me. All right, let's scroll down a little bit towards the bottom. Rags 100% looks like he grew up in the middle of Kansas farming wheat, bro. Dude, if I was in the middle of Kansas farming wheat in that summer heat, dude, I'd have melanoma. I'd be dead by melanoma by the time I was 20. Sensei Dozy, what's up, dude? All right. Going through, trying to find some good comments for you guys. Going through. I like this. You can't comply your way out of tyranny. That's a powerful statement because it's so true. You guys, the people think that if they just play along, then all the problems are going to go away. No, they don't go away. They don't. Just look at history. That's all you got to do. Davis, what's up, dude? Yeah. Govern, control, mint, mind. Government. 5.73 subs and earned every one of them with pure honesty and integrity. LFG. Davis, you keep me honest, man. For the lights. Davis, thanks, bro. Thank you. Most of the mass media are the same puppeteers' puppets. Anyone doing anything to empower people is the enemy. I've been having a really difficult time, and I'll get into these thought experiments. I'll just think about it. I'm trying to find the correlation beyond just the surface ideas of how the media plays into all this. It's obvious. It's got to be money, right? That's all it is. It's got to be money. You all right? Let's take Fox News, for example, in the States. Let's take CNN. I got really pissed off at Fox News I used to watch it a lot. I got pissed off at it during the Obama era. And it's because they were doing the exact same thing as CNN was, and they were doing the exact same thing. They would take these sound bites from Obama and they'd manipulate them and create a whole story out of them. And the second that you would go back and you would listen to the broadcast, you'd listen to the actual footage 5 minutes before and 5 minutes afterwards, it's a completely different story, taken out of context. And at that point, I'm like, okay, this is disgusting. It was years and years ago, I've stopped watching it. But they have to cater to their audience. They have to give the audience what they want in order for the audience to continue to come back. They have to have that emotional response. They have to elicit that because they're getting paid massive amounts of advertising dollars. So they sell out. CNN sells out. CNN talks about the garbage it talks about because it has to make money. Project Veritas has pretty much uncovered everything that we already knew. And nobody in the media is willing to look at it because why would they? It's not going to help pump their bags at all. They can't be truthful. They're not doing it the right way. They're playing the quick game, and it's the game of death. That's what happens. Eventually, it's just state run. Everything's state run at this point. I think both sides of the aisle. That's why Joe Rogan has taken over the news. He's destroying all the major news outlets. I think with the exception of Fox, but CNN, MSNBC, all those folks in America. And why do you guys like Joe Rogan so much? It's because he tells the truth, or at least he lets you know that it's his opinion, and he stands up for it. You feel like you're getting something closer to the truth with him than anybody else. I think that's why. Have you looked into the works of Stefan Molyneux? Yes, I have. The late, great Terence McKenna poetically once said, ideology/culture is the cancer itself because it unconsciously glorifies boundaries. It's cancer itself because okay. The human experience ought to be about dissolving boundaries. I like that. That's pretty deep. I'd want to get more context. Oh, hams. Yes, you've made some people salty. Lowest day for subscriptions in 7 days, but at least the number is still positive. Yeah. You know, I sometimes I sit back and I'm like, okay, I'm going to have these conversations. I'm going to go live on stream. And then the part of me is like, oh, don't do it. You're going to screw things up. But no, I don't screw things up. I'm going to continue to say my piece until they shut me down. Hopefully they don't shut me down this stream. Hopefully this isn't the last one. But we went out with a damn bang, didn't we? Is this what goes on after dark? Mud hog. Heck yeah. All right. T-Bird, we create our own psychological prisons by our own consent. That's the saddest part. That is the saddest part. And then we blame it. We don't even realize we're doing it. We blame it on somebody else. That's a good point, Terrafin. Why are you pumping my ego, Davis? Makes no sense. And then Davis responds, because we have some frauds doing better. And it's getting to me a bit. We play a long game here, folks. All right. Let's check for some more comments here. No such thing as white privilege, just survival of the fittest, smartest, and white people are in the lead. It's just a fact. I'm black, just not American black. I really think that how well you do in life depends on the decisions that you make. I would say that if there is any type of, I've said this before, and somebody brought up the theory. I forgot what the theory was called. If there is any type of oppression, it's certainly economic, and it's not based on race. It's based on classes, in my opinion. There really are, like, the government and banks, it's a really, really scary, scary type thing. It's scary for me to, you guys saw that video I did on Gary Gensler, the SEC guy. And then I highlighted a lot of his comments. Then I highlighted a whole lot of Elizabeth Warren's comments and a couple other folks. But they're just making it out to be like DeFi is the most horrible, disgusting thing ever to hit the face of the earth. And meanwhile, these guys are trying to get us all hyped up on 1.3% CD return over 5 years. Well, I guarantee you the banks are making a whole lot more than 1.3% on that $100,000 that you just locked up in a CD for 5 years. Or maybe you're at 2.5%. So is it fair? Is it fair that the banks get to just hold that as a deposit and then use that money as collateral to get 10x, 100x loans from the federal government paid out by inflation at dirt cheap interest rates? You're getting 2%. They're probably getting frigging 15 or 20%. Gary Gensler, where are you? Is that okay? It's traditional finance, so it's okay, right? No, it's disgusting. Pisses me off, man. Brandon, don't let the darkness consume you and us. Let's rise above this and be better humans. I'm not the type of person. I've told myself at this point in my life that I am not going to sit back and I'm not going to let these lies fly past my eyes and not say anything. It's not consuming. I'm fighting it. I'm not consumed by it. I'm very clear on what I want and what I need and how I think society is best. And it's for a variety of reasons. Here's another thing. It took me being on this earth for a while for me to do like fact checks internally. And it takes years to be able to do this because you're going to hear a lie. You're going to hear, a statement. You're going to say, they're going to say, this is going to happen if you don't do X, Y, Z. If you haven't been on earth that long, you're not going to have the perspective to be able to live through that and be able to look back and say, I remember when they said this was going to happen, but it didn't happen that way. So as this process went along, as I'm on this earth longer and longer, I kept seeing a startling trend. I can tell who's lying and I can tell who's not lying. Okay, they think for some reason that we have one-track minds and we don't remember things. That probably has been the biggest catalyst for me really aligning myself with a set of principles and values and political systems throughout life. Being able to look back and being able to remember and being able to see what the actual outcomes were. Let's scroll down. Let's scroll down here. I'm skipping a lot of your comments, but got to do it. Did you see, Rags? You see what all the Canadian truckers are doing? They clogged up the border. Let's check. I don't know what you're talking about. Canadian truckers clogged border. Police in blockade that stranded hundreds of trucks in Canada. Protest. What's this? This is cbc.ca. So I guess is that a government website? All truck drivers crossing the border must be fully vaccinated as of Saturday, regardless of whether they are Canadian citizens or foreign nationals, the federal government said Thursday. Confusion over the controversial policy has been widespread since the federal government first announced that in mid-November, that by January 15th, all foreign nationals working as truckers would have to be fully vaccinated to enter Canada. I want to say so much about this, dude, but friggin' lock us down. Start going live on Getter. I remember going to a football game, a college football game in August, late August, early September. And I remember at the same time, I'm seeing all these horror stories from all across the world about people just getting locked down in their house, not able to come out except for like 1 hour at a time in a 24-hour period, like it's prison. And I'm at this college football game and I'm at the top of the stands and I'm looking across into a sea of 68,000 people. And I specifically remember not being able to see one person with a mask on. And then in my mind, realizing that in a part of the world, there are people locked in their houses completely freaking out. The government, at that point, I'm like, what is this really about? What is this really about? 68,000 people with no masks on versus certain parts of Australia or certain parts of the UK, certain parts of France, certain parts of Italy. What's this really all about? Felt sorry for those people, man. We all have various stages of our development, such as narcissism. And when we suffer a trauma, we get stuck in those phases. And since we do what is familiar than what is right, we express those problems. Yeah, I agree. I agree. In some ways, I agree with that. All right, let's check it out here. Speaking truth on easy, non-consequential is a necessary muscle of your soul to exercise. It provides the courage to speak truth when stakes are much higher. Yep. Rags, don't do it. I'm not going to do it, dude. I'm not going to do it. Not yet. What's this say? Not all people are like that. Our community is just full of smart people that know BS when they see it. It's how you become a Hexkin in the first place. Ability to see through. Guys, this is what's coming. Governments at large, societies at large, people who have a whole lot more capital than we do, even in this community, they are going to attack us, and they're going to use all the tactics that I talked about today. A lot of people in this chat right now are going to be multimillionaires here in the next 3 to 5 years. A lot of people are, and they're going to come at you from that angle. They're going to come at you from that angle. You don't deserve what you got, even though you took the risk, even though you took your money that could have potentially broken you, and you invested it instead. You did the risky thing. You went out on a limb for your family, and now you're the bad guy. Now you're the villain. How is that? That's what they're going to do, though. So you got to be ready for it. You got to be ready for it. And you got to speak truth, folks. You got to speak truth in a way that's logical. You got to speak truth in a way that's factual. It's backed in something. You have to do it. You got to push back. You got to push back. Otherwise, you're going to see really, really bad things happen. Pendulum's always swinging. It's swinging back to a direction that I don't really like right now. I don't, it could be kind of close to center right now. And then when you see it go all the way over and things get really, really weird, that's when the correction happens and it swings back. Now, the question is, how long are those evolutions? From one side of the pendulum to the other side, is that a 50-year evolution? Is that we'll think about it. I would say it's probably a 75 to 100-year evolution. And in terms of how quickly society has gone downhill, we are probably about halfway. Let's see if we can slow the thing down and get it turning in the right direction. Let's check. All right. Times are going to be getting even weirder soon. Prepare yourselves. Arm yourselves with knowledge. There's something to be said when you're having a conversation with somebody and you actually know what you're talking about. There's a sense of confidence, and there's a way that truth permeates the soul and really indents into people. And you can almost see it in their eyes when you're talking the truth and you're confident You overcome the objections. You say, no, that's not correct. You got to be firm but strong. So start educating yourselves. Start understanding this stuff. Start researching it because it's so important. The most cliche thing that was ever said is knowledge is power, but Scott, is the most important thing ever said, I think. All right. All right, guys. If you have any questions about cryptocurrency, I feel so weird even asking that. But if you guys have any questions about it, pop them in the chat here, and then we can go. We can go from there. Otherwise, I'm going to be getting out of here. Probably getting out of here in about 5 minutes. Was that from the Reading Rainbow? Butterfly in the sky, I can go twice as high. Okay. Yeah. Fear is the mind killer. Dune. It's one of the best quotes I think ever. Fear is the mind killer. Fear is the lack of knowledge. You're right about that. I like that. Huge point made here by Ike. Being financially stable can be the key to saying no and taking a stand. I love that. I love that. You check that box, you're financially stable. There's a lot of things that kind of melt away, that go away. You don't have to worry about as much blowback and fallout. That's very important. I like that. Do you think that you live on a spinning ball, Rags? Yes. I think I live on a spinning ball. But I will not lie, I have more questions than answers after speaking to David Weiss. Like to the point where I want to spend my own money to do some science experiments. Rags of Riches, do you think the OA prevents a hostile takeover of Hex? If they try to buy up all the Hex and dump it, it wouldn't matter because the OA could neutralize them. So somebody would be willing to come in and spend billions of dollars buying up the entire supply of Hex, pumping price like crazy. I think that the hedge already is the fact that the OA owns so much of the supply. So there's only so much damage that they can do. And I don't think the OA would have to come in and, I don't think they'd have to come in and balance things out because the balance is the fact that they hold so much supply already, in my opinion. And there's a couple other factors. I doubt the OA would buy that up, but we don't know. We don't know who the OA is. We don't know who owns it. There are no expectations. Davis says, flat earth, boys, flat earth. Yeah. Bit to this pulse former, the OA has already behaved in this way before big payday. The OA staked to prevent short-term paper-handed players from attaining too much Hex for staking for a few days and dumping. Yeah. And that was at the point of highest amounts of inflation rate. So now, I don't know. OA has quite a bit. All right. All right. Wow, just realized there's a lot of spammers on here and other YouTube channels. Shame to see this now. Tells me they're scared and trying to derail what Richard is doing. Yeah, probably. Well, folks, I hope you enjoyed this. As always, don't like, don't comment, don't subscribe. In fact, if you are subscribed and you got offended about what was said tonight, I highly encourage you to just leave. Unless you want to learn more about things. And then maybe you don't. But chances are you're pretty closed-minded already because you're so offended right now. So you might want to leave. Balliot Brand, thanks. Thanks for sticking around, brother. Thank you so much. Pulse Earth Planes. Thanks, Rags. Absolutely. Terrafin, I never enjoy you either. Terrafin, he's sporting that Rags to Riches NFT there. Terrafin's so I don't know if you guys saw that, but Terrafin's he's the guy that got that old Brooklyn guy to do that Rags to Riches shout out. You guys could see that on my Twitter. I think I'm going to kind of use that for my intros from now on. I love it. Okay. Let's go, Brandon. Thanks. And YouTube, my name happens to be Brandon, so that was a valid comment, YouTube. Thank you. Cheers. Cheers, man. Bitfiness, I expected to be offended. Now I'm just disappointed. Yeah. Your mom told me the same thing last night. Same exact thing, dude. Robert Kelly, yeah, brother, have an amazing night. You too. Justin, thanks, Brandon. I'm subscribing to everyone who unsubscribes. All right, guys. You guys be good. I had a blast. We're going to count this damn thing down. Get the hell out of here. Get some sleep. Then back at it tomorrow. We'll grind it out. We'll freaking do another show. Ciao.